here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please follow me.
Thank you.
You have transit to Garuda, yeah?
Yes, by Garuda to Haneda.
Okay. May I see your boarding pass? Do you have your boarding pass?
On pass 4.
I want to see, is it?
Oh, really? Thank you very much.
Kalau itu nama ada.
Kalau yang bincangnya SD-nya.
Imam, Jos, Wab, Cang.
Thank you. Really, thank you.
So before we go to the gate, I need to report your passport
Yes.
and boarding pass to immigration, and then after they say okay, we can go to the lounge.
Oh, really? You have to go to immigration.
No, you don't have to. You just have to wait on the transfer desk.
Oh,
I
yes.
will taking care of the immigration.
I have heard under 8 hours transfer, people don't have to in the Indonesian country.
I'm not sure about the regulation because not
Ah.
every passport is required the visa. So maybe yeah, you can go out like 8 hours without visa, but in
No,
a
this
different
is my second time.
oh, this is your second time.
Yes. But last time, about 16 or 17 days ago,
Oh,
I did the same thing from Japan to Malaysia.
oh.
I didn't enter the Indonesia.
You didn't enter Indonesia. Yeah, you can go just but in the airport area, not outside.
Mm.
Yeah, you can just wait here. I will go to the immigration. If your boarding pass.
这么累，那个把这个语文用在其他地方多好。我。 Sudah sana ya? Iya kan segera itu aja. Sudah.
Para penumpang pesawat All Nippon Airways dengan nomor penerbangan NH 8